And I have been asked to keep an eye on my notes so that I introduce the Compere with the correct name. Please put your hands together for the one and only Steve Evans.
Good evening. And please keep the applause going for Shirley Ray, ladies and gentlemen, who actually made a wife-swapping reference live on this stage. You couldn't make that up, could you? And they tell me I have to set my dial to level 1. Possibly not tonight, then. So, isn't it lovely? Again, welcome. Welcome to the IBM British Ring Shield Competition 2012 here in Great Yarmouth. Great Yarmouth, a place referred to by the locals who know it best as Yarmouth. Presumably because they don't believe the hype. All year people have been saying to me, Great Yarmouth, oh, you don't want to go there. And all year I've been saying, it'll be a lovely place. Oh, no, it's not very good there. It's a wonderful place. And then on Tuesday we arrived. I love it here. I think it's a fantastic place. Mind you, I do love a shop that sells tat. And here they have an entire street full of shops that sell tat. Presumably for the holidaymaker that needs to buy rock and a set of ring spanners from the same shop. A place occupied by people who are permanently damp. I like the idea, you know, of putting a superlative before the name of the place where you live. Some of you know where this is going. Because that means I come from a small, idyllic fishing village just north of Birmingham, called wonderful Wolverhampton. A place where recently the council had the idea of promoting their city as an alternative holiday destination. I know, who knew? I played along. I even came up with a slogan. Wolverhampton, the city, the size of a town, but with the facilities of a campsite. Never even got an email back. Some of you may know I used to work for Wolverhampton Council. Please, no booing. One of the jobs I had was being in charge of the Mayor's annual charity quiz. 2 years ago, one of the easy questions was, who was the first man to set foot on the moon? And someone shouted out, Buzz Lightyear. Tells you something about the council, doesn't it, really? But I think you all know that I just love doing this event, and it's lovely again, as I said, to see all of you here. This year we have, as Shirley told you, just 6 competitors. A small number compared with previous years, when I know a lot of you will remember that we used to start at 8 p.m. prompt on a Thursday evening, and often not be finished till gone 11 the following Tuesday. You could nip off, decorate a small bedroom, come back, they'd still be there. But tonight you'll be finished early enough to be able to take the Seafront Express home to your hotel. Although walking's probably a quicker option. If that is an example of the public transport round here, you can tell why it's a very difficult place to get to, can't you? So, I am mindful that it is a competition, and we will be starting in a moment, but there is a tradition, folks, that I do every year. I introduce you formally to the man who was ever present at the IBM British Ring Conventions, and that is the person who this year, for a change, is sitting to my left, my right. Blame it on Wolverhampton. Did somebody clap me there? Someone who knew they were sitting in the dark. Oh, we would have gone on if I could have seen you. And that is, of course, the IBM's answer to Bobby Crush, Mr. Dave Cass. Hiya, pal. It's lovely to see you, Dave. Are you enjoying the convention? He says he is, folks. Dave, we went to Blackpool in July to FISM, and you weren't there, Dave. Mind you, you live in Leeds, don't you? So July, you're probably already set out to come here. I'm just saying it's a long way. And they had a man there, Dave. He was like you, only different. He wasn't as good, Dave. He played the keyboards, but he just wasn't as good. Several times I requested the Dam Busters, and he never played it once. Then someone pointed out he was German. That caused embarrassment. But it's lovely to see you, Dave. I'm enjoying this too much, to be perfectly honest. I will get off now. And I will, of course, be chatting during the rest of the evening. For now, folks, it is time to start the competition. You know how it works. You are unique in being an audience of performers and those who are used to seeing magical performance. So unfortunately, that places a lot of pressure on all of you. You know that the more you give, the more the performers are able to give back. And with that in mind, please give your best British Ring welcome to act number 1 in this year's Shield competition, the amazing Norville. Act number 1, the amazing Norville. And not Orville, as I put on my notes. That could have been embarrassing. So this is, of course, a competition. And you can't have a competition without judges. The IBM British Ring prides itself on the quality of its judges. This year, we have 7 of them, which is 1 more than we have competitors. We also have 6 competitors and 5 trophies. Can you imagine not winning one? That's going to hurt, isn't it? It's going to be more like school sports day, isn't it, really, than the competition? That's a level 2. That's as high as I'm going to go. Don't worry. I'm a professional. I've got control of my dial. So I'm going to introduce all of the esteemed judges, but please let me give you the applause cues, because there are 7 of them, as I said, and we'll be here for some times if we applaud after each one. There is also a change to the judges, and I'll explain that. So in no particular order, we have the organiser of this year's Dealers Hall, a Dealers Hall that is in a sports centre, which is very useful because 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, I've got a game of badminton booked. So someone's going to have to move some tables. He is also my esteemed fellow Compere, Michael Carr, no clapping at the moment, and the secretary of the Mahatma Magic Circle and regular convention attender, Rick Tynan. And, of course, Michael Carr. We now have a non-attendee, a judge that couldn't be here. Our 3rd judge to be introduced, the absentee, was someone who had been to every British Ring convention since 1989. So I can only presume he's now run out of community service and he's no longer attending. He is the current organiser of the Ring 85 convention on the island of Ireland. He is, of course, a man known to many of you, James Hobart. He's not here, but please, a round of applause for James, because I know through the power of the internet, your applause will get back, because he's in hospital and we don't really know why. So, please. He's a lovely bloke. But he has been replaced by a man who is from the Nottingham Guild of Magicians. He is a very good friend of the IBM, and he is, to quote Graham, who works backstage, and I quote, the bloke who's knocking up me mum. I am appalled at that. I didn't even know what that meant. Shirley had to explain it to me, because apparently she has knowledge of such things, as you know from the reference she made earlier about the car keys. It's callback, isn't it, really? So he did say, what dirt have you got on our judge? And I said, nothing at all. And he then said that. What can you do other than introduce Mr. Andrew Morrison? Thank you very much for stepping in, Andrew. It is very much appreciated. You must understand the importance of the judging process. Our next judge is from the Americas, ladies and gentlemen, from across the pond, and in the real world, he's an airline pilot, which I must say is really impressive. Although I do come from somewhere where if we see a plane fly over, we still look up and point. and are often known to fall backwards. In our world, of course, he is the IBM coordinator of rings and contest executive. He is, of course, Mr. Don Greenberg. I am going to finish the introduction of the judges after act number 2, and that is the act I'm going to bring on now. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep your warm applause going as you did for the first act. As I say, please welcome onto stage act number 2 in the competition, Lorenzo. Act number 2, Lorenzo. Oh, Graham backstage has got his mobile phone with him. His mobile phone's been going mad. Someone's been sending him texts. Mom, I think it said. Just gets worse. One of the nicest people in magic is Mum. Here you are, Dave. Just when you thought life couldn't get any better. There is a line about knowing where to put them, but I'll say nothing. So, the judges are all but complete, and it gives me great pleasure to be able to say these words. From these shores, the next judge is the international president of the IBM. I'll repeat that. From these shores, the international president of the IBM, the first Brit to hold the post since the wonderful Tony Shelley in 1990. He is a person we're all proud of, and in my opinion, almost unique, being both posh and from the north. He is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and I hope this doesn't bring down his street cred, but he's actually my mate. Who knew? Who'd have thought that would happen? He is, of course, the executive secretary of this ring, John Pye. The last 2 judges are collectively known as Amethyst, but what you won't know is that they, together with Russ Brown from Blackpool, were the support for me behind the scenes last year when I compared this event, because without them, I simply wouldn't have been able to complete the show. So now you know who to blame. They are 2 of the nicest human beings you will ever meet, Annette Clare and Danny Hunt. And please, a further appreciation for the already mentioned Chair of Judges, a man known to all of you, I'm sure, who was the previous organiser of this competition, Mr. John Pulfrim. Thank you, John, for everything you do. Now, folks, I'm very quickly going to start the joke competition. I'm going to start the joke competition, and then we will run it in the second half. The joke competition will be explained to you. There's 2 words you need to know. If you don't like a joke, jokes that you have sent in to me throughout the year, and I thank you all again for doing that. I really do love receiving them. If you don't like a joke, the word you need to know is bin, B-I-N, bin. If you do like a joke, the word is final, and we will make that assessment as we go. Now, to introduce and tell you the first 2 entries in this year's competition, before I had this job, somebody used to read out hilarious quips in between the acts. They were very, very funny. He thought so. And that person has agreed to reprise that role this evening. So those of you who weren't here all those years ago, you will be able to now see what you were missing, as I ask the previously referred to Mr. John Pye to read out the first jokes in this year's competition. John, have you got the microphone working? No, you haven't got the microphone working. How does it work? Well, it'll probably already be on. Oh, you've done the tapping the end, have you? Good. I can see that from here. I could fill. I tell you what we will do, folks. We will be ever vigilant of the fact that this is a competition, but now you know the excitement that is in store after the interval. The interval will come after act number 3.
We're there.
No, you're not. I'm bringing the act on. Please excuse me, we just got a chat. Hold yourself until after the interval. No, after the interval, mate. After the interval, because I'm going to bring the act on now. Because he's probably got budgies loaded. So you've got to be a bit sensitive.
Be like that.
I'm not being like anything now. Let us not have a fallout, John. Let us not have one of our spats. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the support you've given to act number 1 and act number 2. Please keep it up for act number 3, as I say. Please welcome onto stage Dave Andrews. That was act number 3, Dave Andrews. Well, that brings us to the end of the first half. There will now be a 15, 20, 25, there'll be an interval. And Dave will play the Dam Busters at some point. Please feel free to stretch your legs, although not too far, because this is a pier. And then the second half will start with dueling mates, with me and John having a go at the joke competition. See you in a bit. Thank you very much. Quick joke for dolphins there, I notice. Did you enjoy your interval? Yes. Lovely. Now, before John takes to the microphone for the beginning of the joke competition, can I just remind you, because we have had an interval, to make sure that you turn your mobile phones off. That's most important, because in a little while, if they go off, they could wake the person next to you. And we're all a brotherhood together, and you don't want heart attacks, do you? No. So this isn't a contest between John and I, folks, because I have given him 2 jokes to read out and kept the best ones for myself. So please, when either of them are followed by silence and confusion, think of John being set up in his year of international presidency. I've been talking to Tim Shoesmith backstage, and I so wanted to say before one of the acts came on, now I've seen the next act on YouTube. It's not going to happen. Back on level 1, I'm afraid. Okay, John. Are you there? And your microphone technique is impeccable, my friend.
It's working this time.
You haven't found it necessary to bang the hand with your hand.
I've done that when you weren't listening.
Well done. I've done that when you weren't watching, is the gag, but I'll see your point. He needs help. Over to you, my special friend.
The first I've got here is, I've got a friend who is half American, half Iranian. To be honest, he's his own worst enemy.
Well, it's winning so far. Final indeed, yes. Dave. Joining in's good. But you must have had problems with that at school. So if something happens and you feel the urge to give it a music, indeed, like that, fight the urge, mate. Fight the urge. Because every time I walk over here to raise the audience again due to you killing them, just creates more tension backstage from the competitors. Ah, dear, well, what can you do? Shirley's his carer, he has to come along. I'm sorry. I'm obviously just enjoying this too much, aren't I? I'm really sorry. Oh, well, I'm with my mates. And I must get on. I know that. Right. John, you're in the final so far. You are the final. Have you got a second one, my friend?
I certainly have. What do elves do after school? Gnome work.
Okay, so we've got one that was good, and that's fine. Yeah, we know. No booing. International president. All right, here we go. Well, we have one. Let's see if we can beat it. With half a dozen or so, and then we'll bring on the first act in the second half. Two Eskimos were sitting in a kayak and were cold. So they lit a fire in the boat, and not surprisingly, it sank, proving once again that you can't have your kayak and eat it too. It's all right, it's your joke. Don't blame me. A man walked into a bar with a slab of asphalt under his arm and says to the bartender, "Can I have a beer and one for the road?" You're joking. I think you're the person that put this in. Oh yes, that's how it works, folks. For those of you that are experiencing this for the first time, at least one person will laugh at every joke. Vested interest. The lollipop lady in our street makes me cross. I bought 5 gallons of Tipex on eBay. Big mistake. It's too late now. It's gone into the pit of doom by the empty front row, second row and third row. Right. I removed all of the German names from my mobile phone and now it's hands-free. All right. There's no need for a debate. This isn't the AGM. You'll have a chance tomorrow. I think we got some bins, so Johnny's still winning, I think. Possibly with the kayak is quite close behind. I'm not doing that one. No, not doing that one either. What is red, wobbly and can fly? Jellycopter. All right. You don't even get it. Get out. No. I'm not going to explain it, mate. It's a joke. Just blame the accent. Heckling. Dave, play him some music. No, don't. He doesn't deserve the Dam Busters. No one deserves the Dam Busters. Still inflicts it on us. Right, I'm on 2 diets at the minute because one's not working. All right, fair enough, yes. A guy calls a hospital. He says, "You've got to send help. My wife's going into labour." The nurse says, "Calm down. Is this her first child?" He says, "No, this is her husband." It's 50-50, but it gives us a nice point in which to introduce the first act of the second half. John, much to my pleasure, you are currently at least joint winning the joke competition, and that's a great place in which to say thank you for the support you've provided in the first half. Please keep it up in the second, as I invite you to welcome act number 4 in the Shield competition, Gary Jones. Act number 4, Gary Jones. So, John, you have the name of the person who is winning so far. I think it was better than the asphalt line. We have a shortened joke competition this year. This is the last set of entries, although we do have a late one, which is very typical of what I receive through the year, bless. I do let my wife vet them, which is why I probably never get to see 80% of them. I fancied going, I said to my wife, my wife said, it's in pencil, my wife said to me, "I fancy going somewhere different." So I said, "How about trying the kitchen?" No, you were baiting me. You were baiting, Stephen, and there's female voices over here saying, "I think you'll find that's bin, Stephen." Stephen's been married since 1985. Bin it is. Right. My family was so poor, on my 12th birthday, they put half a cake with 6 candles up against the mirror. I think it's nip and tuck. You can decide whether or not it actually beats John's entry, which he has the name for that, as I said, on his thing. I like this one. For all the reasons that are wrong with comedy. I like this one. For reasons that make me seem a very, very shallow person. I like this one. So I have warned you. Although it doesn't contain any bad words at all, it simply says this. London Zoo have a new programme to help stimulate the giant pandas breeding programme. They are putting them on income support. It's in the pocket. Just, is enough. It's enough for me. It was like a guilty pleasure. Because I do come from Wolverhampton, remember, so I do know the subject. Being a man who's on benefit myself. Right. I'm actually getting married next week. It comes as a bit of a surprise. All I said was, I'll set a date to get married when I see the Queen jump out of a helicopter. Yeah, okay. I think we know where we've gone with that. John, your entry has been surpassed, but not due to your telling, my friend, due to my loaded selection. Because we can't have you winning, right? I was in the jungle and there was a monkey with a tin opener. I said, you don't need a tin opener to peel a banana. He said, no, mate, this is for the custard. I hate audiences when they're funnier than me. That happens quite a lot. Well, I think that's possibly winning, you know. I think that... let me say I think the Queen is winning. And yes, I think the Queen is winning, folks. And so she should. What do you call an adult balloon? A blown up? Oh, no. Let it go. Let it go, it's fine. I fancied a game of darts. My mate said, nearest the ball goes first. He went bar, I went moo. He said, you're closest. And now the Queen's still winning. And in fact, I would say, as I give you the last chance to topple said Majesty, before I bring on act number 5, the penultimate act this evening. What goes, now you see me, now you don't. Now you see me, now you don't. A penguin on a zebra crossing. The Queen, yes, I know. All you heard was John's voice trying to impersonate a sheep bar and going, bean. Very funny, John. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the young person's language is give it up. 2 more times. This is the first of those 2 for act number 5 in the Shield competition, Old Nick. Act number 5, Old Nick. Oh, so that's what you look like. You couldn't put the lights back down, could you? They're freaking me out. They're staring at me. Oh, this is Graham. Can we take the opportunity of having a big thank you to our own crew? We will thank the house crew separately. To Graham and Neil, give them a huge round of applause. They spend their entire convention working. But Graham may not be able to do the late night show tomorrow night due to being grounded by his mom. The house lights are still up. It might become a staring contest. The worst thing that can happen is I noticed some of the people that were chatting to Tim Shoesmith last night. That could mean probably 24 hours. You wouldn't want that. We'll test the Queen just a little bit more. I told my girlfriend I had a job in a bowling alley. She said 10 pin. I said, no, permanent. Queen's still winning. Queen's still winning. What's brown, sticky, and squirts red stuff? Hedgehog with a donut? Don't bother. Don't bother eating a donut. What? Oh, this one will split the audience. What's the worst time to have a heart attack? when you're at a party and it's your turn in a game of charades. Anyway, live it. So we have a winner, folks. It's the Queen, courtesy of a man who will not be coming up to collect his super trophy, which is in here, because the trophy carries with it a small story. And it's Bert Slater. So a round of applause for Bert Slater, who I believe is one of the timekeeping team for the close-up competition. So, for the last 4 years, I've given away an inflatable trophy. And it's quite a big trophy, it's quite funny, it's okay. And I bought it from the same company. This year, they didn't send me a trophy when I ordered one. You see, you were all wondering what use these bags would have. I like to offer a service. You wait till you see what's in it. So, the company sent me this email, which I've had to write out, unfortunately, due to printer problems. It's from Inflatable Novelties of Croydon, established 1994. Dear Mr. Stephen, not a good start. We value your custom and note from our records that you have purchased the same specialist item from us in August for the last 4 years. It's an inflatable trophy. Unfortunately, we have now stopped stocking the more unusual items, and so are unable to complete your order on this occasion. However, we have supplied you with a similar item at no additional cost, with a free gift as a gesture of goodwill, which we hope you find to be satisfactory. I wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed when I opened that. When I opened the free gift, I was even less impressed. But Bert Slater, thank you for entering the joke competition. Your home life has just got a whole lot more interesting. So it leaves me to ask you to give the traditional vote of thanks. They will be thanked many times during this week by the Compares that stand on this stage. But I also want to thank the Compere for last week, because of course the Compere is the person that never has anyone to thank them. So please, a round of applause for one of my best mates, Tim Shoesmith, who is backstage supporting me this evening. Did a sterling job last night. Please, loud enough that he can hear. And of course, the house lights, the follow spot operator, even though one of them does come from Birmingham. Indeed. Round of applause. And for front of house. And for the house techies. Thank you. So we now come to the last act of this year's Shield competition. Please welcome onto stage act number 6. Your final act. Sean Alexander. Act number 6, Sean Alexander. So obviously Bert Slater hasn't been invited up here to be photographed with an inflatable sheep and some handcuffs. You will get the opportunity to do that when Bert is presented with them in much better light and a much smaller venue at the close-up show on Saturday afternoon in the Hollywood Cinema, where in the programme it says, I will be introducing, and we all know I'll be doing a bit more than that. Because once I'm on, it may simply run to Mr. Daniel's event on the Sunday. So thanks for coming, everyone. Please give our judges one more round of applause. They have a difficult job to do now, which they will do. The crew backstage, my colleagues on lights, the people that sell the ice creams, and most importantly, to all of you, From me, I will see you around the convention. Please come say hi. I'm quite happy to be bought an ice cream because I don't drink. And more importantly for me, I want to leave you with this simple sentence. See you all in Buxton next year. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I give you out the results, I am going to make you wait just a few more minutes because there are a few thank yous that I definitely need to do. I'd like to say thank you to my assistant organiser, the British Ring musical director, and also my husband, Dave Cass. And I'd like to say thank you to the backstage staff, to Neil Roberts, Graham Colvin, and all of the backstage staff. Not forgetting those out front, the lights and sound technicians. I'd like to say a big thank you to the judges and to a man who this year, for the last year, was chairman of judges and without whose magical knowledge and help over the last few years, I don't know what I'd have done. Thank you very much to John Palfreyman. I'd also like to say thank you to Tony Brooks and Chris Bull for being timekeepers once again. And one more, a very big and special thank you to the Compere for the show, Steve Evans. I have to say, he told me I would forget to thank him and I'd have to go and apologise afterwards. Okay, the Tom Harris Cup for comedy this year was not awarded. We do have one extra award in the British Ring Shield competition this year. It's the British Ring Shield stage competition Compere of the Year. Steve Evans.